Welcome to a somber, kind of sad, just maybe a little depressing. Keeping it orange and blue. Not for just the Illini reasons, but any Bear fans on here, and I'm sure some Cub fans on here too. Hey, some Ryder Cup Ryder Cup fans even maybe. It's just kind of a depressing weekend. Yes, the Cowboys won, which I'm happy, but a lot more other, just real unpleasant things going on in our sports landscape. Other than that, Kevin, how are you?
Oh, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I really I contemplated this weekend, like, why do I care so much? Like, why do I give a shit? Like, why do sports mean so much to me? I watched the Cubs just basically completely melt. Now, granted, nobody expected them to be good, but it was such a surprising season, and then for it to just fall apart. As a matter of fact, and please don't take this the wrong way, it's like somebody told me the Cardinals maybe lost 100 games. I didn't even know. Like, I was so wrapped up in what the Cubs were doing and their opportunity there that we didn't get a chance to revel in that. And I'm not going to. I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, they were 71 and 91, but close enough. Yeah.
All right. Somebody said that. And I was like, I didn't even look it up because it's not important. But and then the Ryder Cup, which I had on fade the deuce is my lock, and I told everybody it was a heart pick, but there was opportunities for them to win that. And then, like, what we will get into and we'll talk about. Now, the Bears, I'm the Bear fan. I was happy they lost. I was really happy not unhappy with the way that they lost. It was really frustrating for me that Justin Fields looked extremely competent. Now, granted, it's against a really bad defense, but I want the Bears to get the number 1 and number 2 picks and revamp the entire organization from the top down, but probably won't happen. But then, like, I was trying to think back, Ryan, what's the most that was the most disappointing loss from an effort standpoint? From, like, I felt like they just kicked our ass physically, and I don't get it. And it was probably the most frustrating loss. And I would go back to the end of the 2019 season, that 29-10 loss against Northwestern, the season we went to the Red Box Bowl. The Northwestern was like on their 4th-string quarterback that game, and they just ran the ball down our frickin' throats.
I would agree with that loss.
There was a 3-9. They won one Big Ten game that year, and they beat us 29-10 at home, and we were a bowl team. Like, I mean, that was.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree though that loss was mind-bogglingly more baffling than anything. But I wasn't really depressed, I'd say, or more like really hurt.
We were going to a bowl game.
But because we were going to a bowl game, that's what I meant. Like,
yeah, we're not going to a bowl game now. Like, I mean,
well, we're going to get into that more, but this Nebraska game, Kevin, if it's a must-win game, because we'll dive more into that. If Illinois is at 3-3, there's a path to get to 6 wins. If they can beat Nebraska, there's no reason they can't beat Indiana or Northwestern. That's 5.
There's also a path for me to win the Powerball too, but, like, let's be real.
Well, you know what?
I hate them. I hate the state, but I'm about to move to Missouri because, like, with this team, you got to show me, like, because I know I was 10-win guy. I know people have been sticking it in my craw. This team has not performed. This team is not. They are bad in so many facets of the football game right now. That yes, can they beat Nebraska? I believe they can, but I don't believe it. I don't believe they will. Like, I don't believe they. I don't know if they beat Indiana right now. I don't know if they beat Northwestern.
So let's dive into those issues at the moment before we really get into anything in depth from what we saw in Purdue, because while it was ugly, it had its good moments as well. There were some really good moments, a lot of more frustrating.
Okay, Keepin, good. Next. I'm like, what? What was good?
No, not just Caden Fagan. Come on, I think Josh McCray looked good too when he was in there.
I think was like a hot bag of dicks.
Hey, Isaiah Williams, he didn't look good?
Isaiah Williams was incredible. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I didn't say there was like 5 or 6, but let's not just shit on the whole show here. There is some positive. So trust me, there's going to be plenty of pissing on cornflakes in this episode. But we're not going to piss on guys like Isaiah Williams who are giving it his all every freaking game. He's leading the Big Ten in receptions. He's leading the Big Ten in yards. He deserves praise, and we're going to give him some. But
give him his flowers.
Yes, we're going to give that man his flowers because this is his final year. He's told everybody that. I've told people that. He ain't coming back. He don't want to play college anymore. He don't want to go into school anymore. And I think he's given himself a real shot to make an NFL roster. And all you need to do is look around the league and say, did anybody think Isaiah, not
Tony Adams?
Yeah, sorry. I'm saying Adams. Did anybody think Tony Adams was going to make it in the Jets? Do you think that anybody thought he was going to be a starter in the league? He is not playing tonight because of an injured hamstring. But the man worked his tail off as a free agent, and Robert Saleh loves him. So I'm going to say that I think Isaiah Williams is definitely going to play in the NFL. Now, what's going on behind the scenes is really the issue for this team, Kevin. Okay, and I've really held my tongue because I felt like I didn't want to be a hindrance of the team's success because if I felt like, hey, Illinois is getting on track, let's say they beat Purdue, right? You're at 3-2. You got Nebraska coming in. You're on the pace to win 6 to 8 games. That's fine. But when it's Brett Bielema will do everything in his power to always keep it positive or keep everyone out of it. Not every coach is like that. Sometimes you can see frustration creep in on many coaches and they'll let it out. But Brett Bielema finally, after the post-game presser, you could just tell. And I'm not necessarily saying he used Lunny as a scapegoat. I just think he was keeping it real. Like he said, the play calling is predictable. He's saying that he's going to hone in his coordinators and he's going to come in and they're going to take a look at what plays they even need to consider anymore because the line can't block long enough. Altmaier's doesn't have enough time to even throw the ball. So why are they calling these, plays that need to develop for 4 and 5 seconds? He's basically saying that Lunny is not calling a very good game. So, and what does that mean for the defense as well when the secondary is allowing guys to just jailbreak free right by them, like Xavier Scott and Nicario Harper just, oh, hey, who's got the giant tight end? Not me. Not you either. Okay. Right. Can't get off the field. How aggravating is getting off the field on third down? Like over and over and over the same crap. And you know what? It was strategic. Ryan Walters is like, hey, just throw up fade. They're going to grab you. They're going to face guard. They're not going to turn around. So wondering who's been teaching the secondary these things. You think week 5, week 6 that guys would understand you need to turn around. But they don't do these things. Why do you think that these guys possibly, Kevin, wouldn't be doing these things? Well, maybe is it possible there is not very much senior leadership on this team? I don't think there's a lot of want to get better. I think there's a lot of guys trying to get their own. And I've been hearing that for a month or two. I heard in camp, it was more about not just too specific. I'm not just referring to the law firm. There's a bunch of other guys that are worried about getting their own. They didn't like the defensive schemes, the defense philosophies. There's been several big, loud explosions between players and coaches about the schemes. This ain't gonna work. I regret coming back this year. I should have been better off staying in the draft. And this is nearly a weekly thing. And not only that, throw in the offensive line circus going on right now. And for weeks we keep hearing, oh, they're good, they're fine. No, you know what? I think everybody's eyes have told you what's fine and what's not for the offensive line, and they're not. It might be one of the worst in the Big Ten, if not the worst, Kevin. It's a makeshift group, which 1 week, Pearl's amazing, right? The next week, Adams is amazing. 1 week, Geske will be really good. But how many weeks have we seen Adams and Pearl really good, and maybe a Kreutz had a great week? There's one guy that usually stands out, and then a bunch of average to below average every week. And for Brett Bielema to have to deal with that being a offensive line type of dude and having Bart Miller, whose philosophy, Kevin, is I want the toughest, nastiest, offensive line, we're going to be the toughest every play. I would say they're probably the toughest 10% of the plays. So to have that and go home and look at those films, this is my last thing I want to talk about behind the scenes drama, Kevin, and then I'll listen to your perspective. Today I was told in the meetings, Josh Whitman was involved in coaches' meetings. So he was in there sitting amongst the coaches, and they had quite a bit of long meetings before they actually did position group meetings. And Whitman was involved in that. And the players went over what they did and didn't do. A lot of tongue lashings, dropping touchdown passes, Pat Bryant, Luke Altmaier overthrowing wide open tight ends, even when you have it, just anything and everything that could have went wrong. And I'm telling you, Kevin, if Illinois does lose to Nebraska, you're going to be seeing the Walt Bell-ish Georgia Tech type scenario where a coach is either going to be play calling duties are going to be ripped from them, or even worse. I'm telling you, it's getting to that point. So if they lose to Nebraska, I'm hearing that that's a very high possibility.
Oh man, it's interesting because there's some things that happen in the game that I think completely can change the entire concept of the game, the entire perspective of the game. You and me and Matt were texting during the game. I mean, the overthrow of Boyer by Altmaier, and I just don't get it. Like, there's no need, but you know what? When you've been sacked, when you're like the bottom 10 in NCAA football and sacks per game, like your quarterback gets sacked that many times, like the quarterbacks start to lose their focus. If he would have just had a little bit of patience and put a little touch on that ball, it's an easy touchdown. The ball that goes right through Pat Bryant's hands. There's just plays that happen that can change. Pat Bryant probably scores a touchdown on that one. If not, maybe it's a 40, 50-yard game. And those aspects change the game. And I was watching several plays where the offensive line was just so slow off their blocks that I don't give a crap what the play call is. Now, I will say this. I have no clue. The Philadelphia Eagles have taught the entire football world what to do on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 if you're going to go for it. You put two big boys behind a quarterback and you drive that son of a bitch forward for a yard. Like, it's an unstoppable play. Philadelphia runs it 3-4 times a game and nobody can stop it. You don't put your quarterback in the shotgun formation with the back to his side, who has to then make a read to make a play. If you're going to do that, you have to do it with a back who can make really quick moves. You got to do that with Aiden Lawfrey. You don't do that with Caden Fagan. You don't do that with Josh McCray. You get those big SOBs running downhill, and you let them lower their damn pads and get through the play. And here's a better, line up a damn fullback if you need to. You know what? Kendall Otaluga could come in and play fullback for one play if need be. By the way, I thought he played pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought 3-9 was out there making some plays. I thought Keith Randolph should have probably got a dozen holding penalties on him. And that's another thing I could talk about. I was like, dude, you guys want to talk about these pass interferences? Like, they're flat out, they're not. They weren't. Like, they're terrible, terrible calls in a college football game. They're bad. Those are bad calls.
And
don't tell me it's coaching. It's bad calls.
And where was Illinois' calls for those?
I agree. They weren't there. So it's a little bit of that, but I guarantee you this. Kudos to Ryan Walters. He talked to the officials about it before the game because he taught his guys how to do that. It's the same way that stupid pass interference penalty we got on Devin Witherspoon against Purdue last year. And Walters took the play calling duties over. And here's the other thing. Well, I'll get back to Lunny. 21, Sarducci or whatever that dude's name was. Pretty cool, right? If it's Sarducci. That dude was all over the place because he was crashing in so hard from the edge because he was not respecting Altmaier to pull the ball out and run. And you and I talked about it on the show last week that Purdue gives up a ton of rushing yards to the quarterback. First play of the game, we rip off a 39-yard quarterback run. Hell, I thought Luke was going to take it to the house. Dude, why do – we did. We ran the quarterback again on that drive. I don't know that we ran a designed quarterback run like that the rest of the game. Either that or Altmaier's making poor reads. He did have the one where he tried to pull it out of I think it was Fagan's lap, and he fumbled. There's just you look at the yardage differential in this game, it's not bad. No. You look at the first down differential, it's not that bad. You look at the things that are killing this team. Third down conversions on offense were dog shit. Third down stops on defense were dog shit. And penalties continue to plague this team that is not Brett Bielema coach team. I don't know what the problem is, and I have some major worries here because if you look at Brett's tenure in Arkansas, what did he do? First couple of years, really good. What happened? Coaches got hired. Coaches got taken away. His second coaching staff, what happened? It fell apart. It looks like this is the same thing that's going on here. And I'm a firm believer in Brett Bielema, but like I said, I'm from the show me right now. This team has to come out and prove it. And there's some levels of this that I was looking it up before the show and during the show a little bit. Quarterback draw up the middle. I'm talking about that read option where you really put the pressure on an end coming in. Your master chimed in and said they tried to run a QB draw up the middle and our middle can't block. I think we can run block a little bit. I think we pass block like crap. Like I said, we're in the bottom 10 in most sacks given up in the college football. Nebraska's in like the top 10 in sacks, but it's really skewed because they got 8 against Colorado, and Colorado's the worst in NCAA football in giving up sacks. But that's still a concern coming into this game. I think we're going to have to see some major changes. Dude, you cannot tell me that Isaiah Adams is a darn good guard. I really believe that. I don't believe he's a tackle, and we got him playing out of position. I'm sorry. We're at that point. We've done it on defense. It's time to do it on offense too. Like, put the guys in there that can play. Magnus Moeller is a mountain of a man. Hunter Whiteneck played a bunch of snaps. There's got to be something we can do. I'm thinking there might be some wholesale change or come to Jesus and put the guys in who want to play. If guys want to complain about it or whatever, play all the young guys. Do the whole revamp, dude. It's okay. Maybe that's why Whitman was in the meeting to say, hey, listen, Brett, if they want to act this way, screw them. Play the guys that want to play.
Yeah. And Whitman keeps his hands out of things, but I think that he had enough of hearing that these seniors maybe are threatening, like, we'll just kind of hang it up for the year and I'll get ready for the draft, because I heard rumblings of that too. So
get ready for the draft then, and I hope you do well because you'll still be in Illini.
Yeah.
But don't ruin this. Don't lose a season because you're not playing well. Like the yardage. I mean, they're just
another. And real quickly, as I know you've elaborated everything. I think tons of the problems, and you've hit them all mostly. I would say another thing with the Lunny play calling issue is how many times has that play action pass to the tight end worked this year?
All the time.
And how many times we see it a game?
Twice.
Maybe.
Yeah, and my buddy Jake was in our text thread was talking about this too. He's like, dude, get Altmaier on the move. Roll coverages. Roll coverages, roll blocking schemes. When you do bootlegs, man, you get guys to move out. You can get defensive ends who crash hard and you drive them down and you roll out. Like we did a couple rollouts.
The bad thing is on the goal line on that sack fumble, they did call that, but it was a safety. It was a corner blitz, and he held the ball just a little too long, and sadly that cost us. But I agree with that. I just feel like I think we saw one boot action hit to tight end to Riemann that went for 15. It's an easy 10 to 15 every time, Kevin.
Yeah. The other aspect that I think we're having a problem with, and this is what needs to happen, and I love everything that Hank Beatty brings to the team. That was a fumble. I'm sorry, that was a catch and a fumble. It should have been a touchdown for Ashton Hollins, or I don't know exactly what the rule is. Maybe it goes back to the 3-yard line or whatever, but that was a catch and a fumble. And that's 2 weeks in a row. He's had a catch and a fumble. Sorry. Yep. It's time for 7. By the way, sorry, Aiden Lawfrey, you don't get to return kicks anymore. You return kicks out to the 13-yard line. Stop doing that. Call a fair catch, get the ball at the 25-yard line, or let 7 return kicks. And the problem with our receivers is Bryant is not a burner. Bryant's got some decent speed. He's not a burner. Casey Washington's not a burner. You know what else they're not? They're not little quick guys. So we don't have burners. We don't have quick guys. Get some guys. Put the burners in. Is Ashton Hollins a burner? I don't know, but he's 6'5". Can Sean Miller run a deep route and outrun one of those guys? Maybe. Can Ian Pugh? Maybe. I don't know. But you know who can? I know who can do this? Is 7. Put 7 in the game. Put 7 and 1 in the game at the same time. Let them create space. We cannot create space. Yeah, McCray fumbled in the open field, moving it to his left arm. You're exactly right. That would have been an 8-yard play. Yeah, Casey Washington can't create separation.
Washington's a lot of things, and he's got sure hands.
Love him. He blocks his ass off. He's a program dude.
But he doesn't.
I'm praying for him to get a touchdown. That's my dude, but he can't get separation. Like, you got to get some guys that can do this crap, man. Dude, Tom Brady made an entire career throwing the ball to Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. And yeah, he had Gronk and he had Randy Moss, but he also had David Patton and Troy Brown or whatever the guy's name was that played defense too.
Yeah.
Like, you can get these little guys that create space. And that's the thing, is Altmaier is looking for guys who are creating space, and they're not getting any separation. There's one guy who's getting separation, and he's getting the ball a ton. Just like you said, he leads the Big Ten in just about every receiving category except touchdowns. Oh, by the way, that conference has Marvin Harrison Jr., the best receiver in college football. Like, play guys that can do that crap, man. There's guys on the roster that can do it. And I'm so glad we finally saw 7 return a kick. Oh, by the way, and stop having 1 return punts. He's the best offensive player. Stop having him return punts.
What was that fake? Did they try like a fake return punt? Did you remember seeing that?
Yes, and they tried a fake return. They ran a little bit of fake return kickoff.
I'm thinking they could have had a nice return on that. You know,
I don't mind showing a little window dressing there and making see if teams are staying in their zones. We did it on the first kickoff. If you remember the first kickoff, they had to kick it off twice because the ball fell off the tee.
Yeah,
we did it too. If you saw, there was another guy. Lawfrey returned it up the right side, but there was another guy all the way at the bottom of the television screen, so it'd be the left side, that was dropped back there. There might be something we're creating there, and I'm okay with some trickeration there, like try and create a big play out of it.
And I was told too by a couple people, one in particular, about that this week that some of the players were nervous because they didn't trust Lunny to be able to game plan and be out coach Walters. They knew what Walters was calling the same blitzes, the same type of pressures that Illinois ran last year. And you would think that our coaching staff would know that or recognize it.
It's funny, guys. I was listening to college football broadcast on my way home. My girls had soccer games on Saturday, so on the way back to the house, I was listening to some college football, and they were talking about repeaters in college football. And they said there's certain coordinators who are repeaters, and they're specifically talking about offensive, but this defense is the same way. And what they mean is they'll run the same play. They'll run different variations of it, but they'll basically run the same play 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 times in a single football game. Because their thing is, we're going to execute it, or you're either going to stop us from executing it, or we're going to keep running it. Barry Lunny is not a repeater, and it frustrates the hell out of me because I believe that the best coaches in football are repeaters because you at least have that in there. And you like you said, we see the play action tight end, the play action rollout tight end. We see it once and we never go back to it. We see the RPO or the read option on the first play of the game, and Lunny and Altmaier gets outside and takes it for 39 yards, and then we don't see it for the rest of the freaking game. My dad played for a guy named Warren Smith who coached at Urbana football. He's in the Illinois High School Sports Hall of Fame. He's one of the winningest coaches ever. And he used to tell me, he's like, they had 3 plays. Now, granted, this is 1960s football. It's very different than what we're doing now. But their thing was like, stop us if you freaking can. Stop us if you freaking can. Like, we're going to run this, and you got to stop it. Dude, how many plays did Wisconsin have? I mean, Wisconsin, even in the Gary Anderson, they ran that jet sweep shit all the damn time. Barry Lundy has to be willing to run the plays that are effective and run them again and again and again until you get teams to stop it, and then you run variations off that. You run play action off that. I think Barry's like, I'm biased, okay? Like, I am not going to sit here and run from it. That I freaking love Aaron Henry, the man. And I met Barry Lunny. That dude is first class. Like, I want these men to do well, but they are frustrated. Barry Lunny especially is frustrating me. And I'll say this because Purdue had like 360 yards of offense. 360 yards of offense should not create 44 points. Well, when you give up 7 on a fumble, and then you give up another 7 because you give the ball at the 29-yard line because you run some stupid shotgun play on 4th and 1, those things start to add up against your defense pretty quickly. So
100%. And you know why you love them, and then they're great guys. They're men of faith. They are.
They are. Amen. Yep.
Yeah,
And
and
that
so
means something to me.
that's why we love them as the men they are. And it's okay to critique and analyze them from the public university they're employed by, and the team that we love. So
But
this is
I
also coming from a good place. This isn't bitter.
no, it's not.
There's no
It's
hatred.
frustrated.
Yes, no bitter. It's no vile here. It is we as the fan base deserve better. And when your coach says that it's unacceptable and it's not to be tolerated, that tells you everything you need to know as well.
Yeah, and I want to apologize. I shouldn't have crapped on McCray like I did because I love the kid and I love how hard he runs. He just didn't seem to have it. It wasn't as decisive. I think that Fagan has a little bit more decisive just go. And frankly, he seems like he's a little bit harder to tackle, which is surprising to me.
And Reggie Love not playing, I think, may hurt a little bit too.
So play 21 a little bit more.
Yeah. Again, that's why. So we're complaining about what though? So
there was another play, and this is on Altmaier, and like Altmaier, of course, deserves some of this blame for the sacks. But he took a sack in the game when they ran a little like a play action to Lawfrey, and then Lawfrey creeped out to the left side, and I think it was Sadusi or whatever, 21 came in off him, and Lawfrey didn't pick him up, and then just curled to the flat, and Altmaier just panics and tries to outrun him to the right instead of just like. That dude's either got to pick up Lawfrey, or if he doesn't, then you just dump it to him. Like it's just frustrating. So
and Master says they wanted to redshirt Fegan because Jordan Anderson was going to be getting some. You know what though? Who knows? It could be a blessing in disguise because I think we're going to see Fegan a lot more the rest of the year. Yeah. He picks up 4 or 5 yards a carry. I mean, almost automatic, really.
Well, my nephew played high school football with him, and I watched him run when he was a sophomore, and his power surprises me at this level because when you're running, now granted that was when he was a sophomore, we were already recruiting him, but he was a min amongst boys even as a sophomore. But when you're at Arthur Lovington, Atwood Hammond, right, ALAH running the ball, I figure you should be able to run over all those kids, and so maybe I unfairly judged him. But he runs a lot. He runs with a lot more power than I expected. And like I said, Caden's a good kid, and I want him to do well. I want Aiden Lawfrey to do well. I want Hank Beatty to be the man. Like I love the local kids playing here. Well, like I said, Beatty's ball control is a huge thing when you're playing guys. And like I said last week on the show, I don't know what it is in the trust factor why we're not playing other guys on the offensive line. Man, I hate to say this. It was Zach Barlev is at 68. He blew a block bad on the 4th and 1 play. Whiteneck is a really slow to like on any kind of like pulling action. He's a big dude. He doesn't get out and move in space. So I don't know what the answer is for this offensive line.
It sounds like it looked like I guess Brandon Henderson got abused a little bit too when he was in there earlier in the game.
I mean, it was at that point where I stopped playing.
Yeah, Hunter is just a big man. He probably needs to lose a few, I would imagine too. I like Hunter, by the way. Great guy. I've been talking to him several times.
And I felt bad saying that about Zach because we met his mom last year at the Northwestern games. She was great lady, great people. So
and I saw Jordan Slaughter completely whiff on they switched. So I think he was at guard, and they did I forget what the move's called, not like a spin, but how the guard comes around to where the nose is, and
pull.
Yeah, he pulled, and Jordan got completely lost, didn't know where the hell he was, and he came around and sacked. What was one of the sacks that Luke took? You could just tell that Slaughter was just mad at himself, swearing himself off at the field. Yeah. But those are just things that you can't have happen. And there's a lot of that going on. And now how bad we're going to hear from Brett tomorrow. How bad's Chrysler? Geske, he's banged up more.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I thought Josh Kreutz played probably one of his better games. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't rewind because it was on that dog shit Peacock. Like I couldn't go back. Like I watch line play a lot because it's so critical to football. I couldn't go back and watch,
I was wondering when he was going to stop saying Johnny Newman.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I mean, if you cannot put this product out for millions of people and not have your commentators do homework,
Yeah,
Like,
and then I wonder where I wonder what's the status. Have you heard anything on Desmond Schuster? Is he?
so the status with Schuster, Brett apparently talked about it last Thursday, is that he's very close to being allowed back on. I guess he's past the physical part. He just had one more mental sort of checkpoint they needed him to clear, and that he's ready to go. It sounds like he could rejoin the team this week. But
Speaking of Croots, 41 was out there making plays on the other side of the ball. Like,
yeah, didn't he have a big sack, or was it a big?
He did, yeah.
Which, by the way, a safety, right?
Damn near, yeah.
It should have been near a safety. Another one I got to give a shout out to, who played really good on a young guy, Sedarius McConnell. He
5'5", yeah, absolutely.
5'5", said McConnell. He graded well on PFF, but you could also tell he's getting a lot of pressure, and I think he's going to be a good one. So after the bye week for Schuster, probably to be ready to contribute some. But, I have a lot of people, I've heard other people in the media saying, yeah, I don't really see how he gets any time this year. Well, have you seen our line? I mean, I'd like to try all hands on deck at some point. Eventually, if you throw shit at the wall, eventually something's going to stick, isn't it? I would hope. So with that being said, there was a lot of I think too, though, one of the unsung things that needs to be talked about more in this, Kevin, is I think Walters just had the team's number. He knew that they weren't going to change much. He called all the defensive plays. He had him and Kane, who know the team almost better than anybody. They're up there, eye in the sky. You got Walters on the ground, and you got Lunny being predictable, and that spells disaster, especially when you don't have an offensive line that can block for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So, and while we move into some talk about Nebraska for a few, while they pose a tough challenge, statistically better than Purdue, I don't think the emotion, the grudge is going to be there, the bad blood per se. I know that Nebraska is going to want and need a win because they just got embarrassed at home. But for all those people, including Matt Rule, who think that, your Husker fans are going to see how serious this team is on Friday, we're going to bounce back. Had Illinois not just been embarrassed like they were, they're going to have a fired up Illinois team who they know, you either show up or your seat's gone. You're not playing. So there's going to be a lot of motivated Illini as well.
We got to stop the run because they can't pass for anything. I mean, they are like 120th, and they average 125 yards passing a game. I mean, their passing offense is anemic. So you're really going to have to stack the box. And I don't know if our standard, 3-3-5, 3-4 is built to do that.
Yeah, definitely. If they have 7 or 8 in the box, I mean, you're making Marcus Washington and Will Kemp, it seems like, is their go-to receivers, who had actually a nice game against Michigan. It didn't end up turning into any points besides the 7 they scored with about a minute left in the game with, Michigan's third string in. But the biggest issue, with Nebraska as well is they don't have a very good offensive line either. So I think our defensive line, with guys like Randolph Newton. By the way, Jacobs, again, another no-show type performance, in my opinion.
There's rumors floating that he's mailing it in. I don't believe that, but there's rumors floating. So,
yeah. So, again, with what we've got rolling, we have a good defensive line rolling in the sense of talent. Doesn't necessarily translate every game because we've all been, depressed we've all been disappointed at some point. But I think if you see the defensive line that we saw against Penn State and even against FAU, that I don't see why Nebraska is going to score more than 14. They just don't put up a lot of points. It was 7-7 against La Tech at the start of the fourth quarter 2 weeks ago. So that's why I think Illinois is going to win Friday, but it's not. I'm not saying it's going to be pretty. It's probably going to be a lot uglier and closer than we would want, because this is a one-dimensional Nebraska team. And while I know some people could say that about Illinois has shown it can put up 500 yards, 30 plus points on people, but it's just not consistent. And defensively, I think Illinois is going to have to set the tone, and they're going to have to pretty much set up the team in good field position. So, with Hunter Harburg, it looks like is the quarterback at Nebraska, because Jeff Sims has lost his job, really. So he didn't perform well, and they gave the Harburg kid, a local kid from Lincoln, Nebraska, the reins, and he's a very similar quarterback to Jeff Sims. They both don't really throw the ball well, but Harburg seems to be a more of an efficient, effective runner, and he hasn't been turning the ball over.
And he's got some wheels too. I mean, he can scoot. He's pretty damn fast in the open field, and so that's going to be a concern. He's not a great passer, but he ran for a whole bunch of yards against La Tech. He ran for 100 yards against NIU. Obviously, he didn't do that against Michigan, but on the season, he's 38 of 72. So I mean, that's slightly better than 50% with 4 touchdowns and 1 interception in the air. But he's ran 51 times for 270 yards. So we have seen that Illinois has struggled defensively in the 2 games against running quarterbacks. So I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know. I can predict a win right now. I don't know what we're going to do. Nebraska's defense has been pretty darn good.
Here's the defense. Here's my point though with Nebraska. So Hudson Card, very good thrower. There's that threat there. He's also mobile. There is not the threat with Harburg beating Illinois with his arm. Jalen Daniels, arm and legs. Finn, arm and legs. So this isn't even where we've struggled a lot. We've really struggled. It hasn't really been the running quarterback that's really beat Illinois. It hasn't been their legs that's beat Illinois. It's been the mobility to then throw the ball. So if you look at Finn had some big plays throwing the ball once he eluded. Jalen Daniels, escapability, hitting the big play with his arm.
Yeah.
Hudson Card, eluding with his arm. Harburg has not shown any of that this year. He eludes and just runs. That's why I'm saying that it's really one-dimensional, So he might.
He had a decent day against Michigan. I'm not sure what the split was between mop-up time and.
Yeah,
he was 14 of 25 for 199. It's not a bad day against arguably one of the best defenses in the country.
He had 2 big balls. One to Marcus Washington, I think, went 45 yards on a crossing route. And then he had another one where he got Kemp on I think it was one of his really good balls. I think it went for 35 is 40. So he had probably 40% of his yardage on those 2 plays. And then
100 yards between those 2 plays almost, and 90 yards on those 2 plays. 90 of his 199. So yeah, I mean he got 40% on 2 throws.
Yeah. So and then everything else was 5 to 8 yards, I think, type passes.
My buddy's a big Nebraska fan, and he says he throws the ball like Uncle Rico. So
yeah. Yeah. So I guess my point would be that it would be well deserved for the fans to just be defeated, and for probably people to quit showing up this year if they lose them in a home Nebraska, because if you can't beat Nebraska right now, who, in my opinion, is either the worst or second worst team, I'm not putting us there yet. I think Illinois is probably 11th or 12th right now. But if you can't beat the teams that are on your level or below you at home, then that you don't really. That's just how it goes. You can't expect people to be okay with it. And while I want people to show up to every game, they're not going to. We know how things work. So,
well, Illinois is worse than the Big Ten at scoring defense. I mean, that is what it is. We're the worst scoring defense in the conference. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow right now. Nebraska is the worst scoring offense in the Big Ten, but Illinois is 12th. So, I mean, I don't know what the stats say that keep Illinois from being the worst. The wins in the schedule obviously do, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that Illinois, though, has shown it can throw the ball and score and run the ball and score. I think Luke Altmaier has shown that he can throw a good deep ball, and guys either like Pat Bryant, who dropped it.
Hold on. But in the Big Ten, Illinois is giving up, and this is all games. Illinois is giving up 180 yards rushing a game. That's the worst rushing defense in the conference. Nebraska is the number one rush offense at 209 yards a game. Like this is not setting up well. I mean, I frankly think we're probably going to get our ass kicked, dude. I mean, it is what it is, dude. We have the 12th best passing defense in the conference. Now Nebraska has the 13th best passing offense, but if we have the worst rush defense and they're the best run offense, they don't need to pass. They just don't need to pass. You know, this defense is like, it's incredible how bad we've got. We are the worst defense in the conference. We give up 400 plus yards a game. Nebraska is the sixth best, 325. They give up 80 almost. They give up almost 90 less yards a game than we do. 90. And then when it comes to offense, we're slightly better than them. We're about 40 yards better than them a game. Like I don't know what we do. Like I mean, they're just going to run the ball down our throat until we can stop it. And this is like calling on all you players in Illinois. Like Nebraska's, I mean, they're a bad pass defense, and so that's the way we're gonna have to win this game. I mean, I think somebody in the chat said earlier, that their secondary sucks.
Yeah, Isaiah Williams, Pat Bryant catch the ball. Hey, Tim,
but dude, I already told you they're like a top 20 team in sacks, and we're bottom 10.
I think you can. Brett already told you Saturday what's coming. There's going to be quick throws from now on. You know, there's going to be a lot more slants across the middle that have been successful, right? You probably see a lot more of those little passes to Isaiah Williams. You're going to see a lot more play action, I guarantee you, to the tight ends.
And Jason Rahm's right, man. It might be a road game.
Yeah, but I know Nebraska always brings about 10 to 15,000. I think there's going to be more Illinois fans than that, but
is there? Is there you skipping your kids' Friday night game to come watch Illinois football?
Well, I don't have one that plays this Friday night, so yeah. I think there'll be at least 30,000 Illinois fans there Friday. So I think it's going to be heavy red, true, but I think Illinois fans will at least double up Nebraska in Champaign. But still, this is not a team that we would have thought we would have seen in the year after. But I think one thing I want to make mention of, and I probably will make I'm actually going to do an article, I think, because this game against Purdue really kind of inspired me some. It wasn't just we always talk about the secondary losses, right? They lost Spoon and Sidney Brown and Quan, right? The senior leadership, the vocal leaders of that, Sidney Brown, right, calling the plays out last year, making sure guys were in the right spots. That matters. But offensive line, think about what Illinois lost to. Alex Palczewski's an NFL lineman. You know, that hurts. You know, so Chase Brown, plays for the Bengals. You lose 2 NFL guys on your offense, 3 on your defense.
Wait a second. What's his name? Pilstrom's on a scout team, I think, somewhere.
Yeah, practice team. Yeah, so you had 2 NFL type linemen that you lose, plus an NFL running back. And then I really sit here and think, and I want people to go back maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks in the press conferences. Brett Bielema has said something that, I think we just kind of overpassed. He said, I'm not sure how many games we're going to win this year. He said that a couple of times. If he thinks he had a really good team and they were like down, determined to compete for the West, you're not saying, I'm not sure how many games we're going to win. But he said, but we're going to compete, and we're really – which is not what we saw in West Lafayette. So that's burning him up. I think this team's got enough talent to make a bowl game, but they've got to get it figured out. And my point is, Nebraska has some tools, they have weapons, but if you can't beat Nebraska, there's no way in heck you should expect to beat Maryland. No way in heck you should expect to beat Wisconsin. And those final 4 games after that, toss-ups with Indiana, toss-up with Northwestern. Minnesota, while they haven't looked great, you got to go to Minneapolis. You got to go to Iowa City, who, yes, lost McNamara probably for the year. But you got to compete with that defense. Are you going to get over that hump in Iowa City? There's still a lot of variables there. Yep. So, anyway, Friday night, 7 p.m.
28-24 in Nebraska.
Okay. Hey, it's cool, man. Highly possible. I'm going to say 21-17 Illinois. Close one. Got to have it. So
with Illinois getting a garbage touchdown to make it 28-24, by the way, a fake rally. I hate that word.
I hope players and coaches hear it because it's.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. Hear it all you want. Hey, listen, how about this, though? I was wrong all weekend. I was wrong on everything. I was wrong on absolutely everything, single thing I thought was going to happen in the sports world this weekend. It's still Sunday night. We've got 2 hours and 3 minutes left of Sunday. I hope I'm wrong again.
Yeah.
You can tune in. You can tune in to Fade the Deuce on Wednesday and find out how wrong I was, because it was wrong across the board.
So as we wind down this episode, Kevin, I guess before we exist, okay. I know
basketball practice starts on Friday. That's my final thought.
Basketball practice starts Friday. For me, I'm expecting an Illini basketball commit this Wednesday. So,
Jace Butler.
Jace Butler, October 4th. I'm expecting him to be an Illini. I don't have any verification that that's 100% fact. Just a very highly educated guess. So that'll be good news for Illinois basketball. And Illinois fans, he's very underrated. He's a lot better player than I think he gets credit for. So that'll be a good news for Illini fans this week. Hoops, of course, as you mentioned. Kevin, anything that you saw golf-wise from the Ryder Cup that maybe gives you any hope for the future of USA golf?
Well, it's really challenging in Europe. It's been 30 years since we won over there. I think we have golf fans who pay attention to the show a little bit, because I've had some people actually ask me for some golf stuff here. Is that I think there were some decisions made about the structure of the Ryder Cup team in 2023 that needs to change for 2025 and beyond. There were guys left off this team that are better players than guys who are on this team because they play on the LIV Golf Tour, right? Brooks was the only one that made it, and that was because of his PGA Championship win. But there's guys like Bryson DeChambeau should have been on this team. Phil Mickelson should have been a captain. Like, he's a guy who's won plenty of Ryder Cups. Hell, he might have been on the 93 team for all I know. I don't know if he was or not. They got to stop this petty bullshit with you play on this tour, that tour, take the best American golfers possible and go out there and win it. We just dug ourselves too big of a hole, and we battled back valiantly today. We were in the thick of it. It's the most riveting television if you're into it you could possibly watch. I mean, I'm coming off the couch pumping, screaming my fist, and then we just couldn't pull it off. But hey, so that being said, it'll be a while before we talk about golf again, probably on this show. But I'm really looking forward to basketball. I see a question about when does Jeremiah Fierce commit. There's some weird things going on with that one. I'm getting some conflicting information on the back end, so I don't know. You might have to go to your resource there, Ryan, and get us some low down dirty information there. So
yeah, I will. Also, because I was told that he was gonna be an Illini and already had secretly committed. So, but you never know. I've never 100% believed and bought in him coming just because,
right?
How they did his brother dirty. They did.
I don't think they did.
Oh, he's gonna be starting for Michigan State, and by the time he's a junior, he's gonna be an All Big Ten guy, and we're gonna be like, he can't shoot though, because that's what Brad told him. So actually told his dad. So that's going to come back. That is going to come back. I'm telling you, in 3 years, even though Illinois is going to have some success, because, I love everything about the basketball program other than how we finish in March. I'm happy that they're making the tournament. I think they've got a really good team again this year that can finish in the top 4 and get a double bye. I think they have Sweet 16 talent. I think that. Does that mean that they're actually going to show up and play in March? I don't know. But I'm not sitting here saying that Jeremy Fears is going to make or break the program. But in 3 years, by the time he's a junior, he's going to be an all Big Ten guard. So to me, if you can't shoot great threes, okay. But could you contribute defensively? Could you have been a good leader? Yes, he could have been all those things. So I think at the end of the day, Dad hasn't forgot that. I think Dad won't forget that. I wouldn't forget that.
But so why is Dad? So you think Dad's stringing along the staff now just to get some payback here?
Yeah, I think that's a very high possibility. I don't know that for 100% fact, but I've always been like, there's always been something like, oh, he's going to visit. Oh, he's got to go do that now. Oh, he's going to visit. But, hey, he's known about that, but he's going to say he's going to still visit. Oh, but he had to go to that tournament because that was most important. But he'll be back October 20th. But, hey, he just took that OV to this place, and then the place – he went to Tennessee. But, oh, he's got to go to that little tournament. Then he'll come to Illinois. And then now it's like, oh, he's got Kansas and Kentucky. Oh, no, he's out of nowhere. They offered. It's like he's a 5-star. We knew they were somewhat like they were always going to offer. They just waited a little bit. That's what they do. And they really don't have to offer right away because they're Kansas and they're Duke or Kentucky. You know what I mean? So I just feel like, we're not going to hear anything until next year. We know that. But I think he's already announced that. I think like February of 2024.
Yeah.
So to me, I would sit here and say it's a toss-up, but
there's rumors that there's been a silent verbal already in that Illinois, I'm reading the tea leaves, doesn't want him to make it public for some reason whatsoever. I don't. It's weird. You're going to have to get to your source on that one. Who's got some good connections on that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of those, so I'll look in my contacts list and see if
Swami's crystal ball.
Yeah, the Swami crystal ball. All right. With that said, we hope you have a wonderful, better week than we had weekend sports-wise. Join us Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for Fade the Deuce. Kevin, how did you have a good weekend other than Ryder Cup? We won't get into the specifics, but did you have a good week? Did you for Fade the Deuce? Did you have a good weekend? Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Matt might overtake you. It'll be fun. You better tune in.
Matt and I were only different in one pick, and I won that one. So, I don't think it was a good weekend for Matt either. Matt did hit his lock, though, so that's a good
There we go. All right. Join us Wednesday night. Matt McCumber will be joining us as always. So we'll see you Wednesday night. Have a great rest of your night. Swami out.
ILL.
I.